The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 73. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Visit our blog at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan. And in today's episode, I have a phenomenal woman on today. You know, she is a entrepreneur. I know she's a karate enthusiast because I've seen her like kick butt on Facebook. But, you know, she's here to share her story. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Jami Stout. Jami, how are you doing today? And maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me, Sheena. Really, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, as Sheena said. I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, so not karate, but close. Yeah, I'm an internet marketer. I'm a mom of a little 2-year-old boy, now living in Minnesota. And so I run a few businesses, and I have my own marketing event, and otherwise, my little guy and training pretty much keeps me busy these days. So
awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I totally apologize. I knew it was some form of fighting.
No, it's over. You know, people that aren't into martial arts pretty much generalize everything. So, you know, I've noticed I've had people like, "Oh, you're into Taekwondo." I'm like, not exactly, but you know, it'll work. Okay. Sure.
Cool. Thanks. And Jami, what's your cultural background?
You know, I think my mother is like American Indian and my dad's like Irish and he's German, and you know, so I'm basically just everything, just anything under the sun. You know, really I grew up in, you know, West Virginia, super southern, very like country, so just pretty much all American.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And you know, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I actually have two, I think. So my first one, I would say it's kind of funny because you hear people say this all the time, but it actually is true. People say, you know, fake it till you make it, right? But if you think about it, if you're faking it, then that means you are actually acting out. You're acting the way that you have confidence in whatever you're doing, right? And I kind of believe that that's one step towards actually believing that you can do it. So, and later on, like, in my story, I will give clear examples of how I actually had no idea what I was doing. On the inside, I was cringing, you know, but then on the outside, I looked like, you know, completely composed, like I knew what I was doing, super confident, you know, in myself. So that's definitely one of them. And the other is actually from William Henley. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So to me, that says, you know, I decide my future. I decide what I can and cannot do. You know, nobody else put a ceiling on me or a cage around me. Only my doubts and my insecurities do that. So, you know, it's you go as far as you're willing to let yourself go and push yourself.
Thanks. And I like that explanation you did on fake it till you'll make it, because, you know, we are supposed to, you know, kind of like act as if we're already there, kind of believe it before we see it. Mm-hmm. So I like how you put that into a positive note. So thanks for sharing that. And in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
That's hard, actually. I was thinking about this earlier. And really, to me, it's believing and trusting in your own will and in your heart to make whatever it is come to fruition. Like just believing that you will find a way. And if you believe that you can find a way to do whatever it is that you need to do, that you're setting out to do, reach whatever goal it is, then you can, you know? So you're super confident in the fact that even if you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea what the hell you're doing, you will find a way to figure it out, you know? So to me, that's really self-confidence, is knowing whatever situation you're put into, you can adapt and conquer.
I love that. It's so true. Sometimes we never know how we end up at the places or the goals we get. We just know that if we set it and just do whatever it takes to do it, we get to that end result. We get to that end result. And, you know, when you look back, you're like, wow, I didn't even realize that happened. Right.
Exactly. Like half the time I'm like, I know I don't know how to do whatever it is that I need to do. I know that, but I believe in myself enough to know that I will find a way to figure it out. And really, I think that's the key. It's like, well, again, back to fake it till you make it. You just figure it out. You find a way.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So, Jami, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
So really, like as I said, I grew up like super all-American, Southern. You were kind of, I don't want to say expected to just sort of go through high school, go to college, get married, and, have babies, be a stay-at-home mom, that kind of thing. And I always knew that that wasn't for me, but I sort of just followed the plan anyway for a really long time. Like I did everything I was supposed to do, played the sports, blah, 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 was in all the clubs that I was supposed to do because, that's just sort of what was expected. And then when I went to college, I went to Pace University up in New York City. Actually, I went to the Westchester campus upstate. But anyway, so, I was really struggling. Like I knew that deep down that I wasn't going to, be like one of my peers that I was surrounded by. And I didn't want to be like an accountant, and I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to be like, a scientist or anything. I knew that I wanted to create, and I wanted to like innovate and inspire, but I was stuck in the classroom because that's what, I was told to do. So I really didn't have the confidence like that I would be able to do what everybody else was doing because I knew it just wasn't for me. So anyway, I was in the entrepreneur club, and they actually sent a group of us down to meet with a bunch of super successful entrepreneurs in Orlando, actually. And so I went down, flew down, and I was, like 19 at this time, 20 maybe. And I met these guys and talked with them and a lot. I mean, they were super successful. But one thing I realized by talking to them is none of them had actually went through college. Not one of them had graduated with a degree. And so I was like, oh, finally, people that I actually feel like, I can look up to, and I can say, oh, that's something I can do. Like, hey, I wish I would have thought of that, and I can innovate like that, and I can, think of that kind of business or do this. So I went back and I dropped out of college, and I was like, I'm going to take my money and I'm going to start a business. And that was the first time that I was actually, I made a confident decision. Because before that, I kind of knew that, I wasn't confident in myself that I was going to do anything that I was going to school for, because I knew better. I knew that that's not what I really wanted to do. So I think the key there was also finding what I actually wanted versus what, society was telling me, and in the little sheep mindset that I had was to do what everybody else was doing. So I sort of found my own way, and then I became confident that that's what I really wanted, so I could make that happen. So anyway, dropped out, started working online. I started with affiliate marketing and just sort of grew from there. And I really think, let's see, I know you're going to ask me because you mentioned before that I need to think of what my aha moment is. So since the story actually already goes into that. So I started actually doing affiliate marketing, like I said, and I started being contracted by online companies, right? And they would bring me in, and I would do like product launches for them. But again, even at this time, like I still wasn't super confident in my abilities to do these things. I just sort of hoped and like prayed and did as much preparation as I could. But I didn't really know exactly what I was doing because they don't teach that stuff in college, right? Like you're an online entrepreneur, Sheena. Did they teach any of this in school?
No, I mean,
right.
They teach like English and like reading books.
Exactly. So I had no idea. Like I really, when you're fresh online and you're a new entrepreneur, you really don't know what you're doing, but you're just sort of trying to figure it out. So you just sort of try to do everything, right? So anyway, I was working with this copywriter on a project for a big client of ours, and he was like, oh, we should put together this big marketing event because, we, at this point, we had both worked in the field a lot. So we knew a lot of the big companies. We'd been contracted by a lot of the big companies to do, affiliate marketing, and he would write their copy, and we did a lot of product launches together. Just, by part that I happened to be really good at what I was doing. He happened to be really good at what he did. So people would hire us together. So we're like, well, we should just have an event and teach people how to do what we do, right? But I don't think either of us really believed that we could do it. So, because it takes a lot. You have to get a hotel, and you have to like actually have people buy tickets, right? You got to actually plan it out. You have to feed them. Like you have to have speakers. They have to leave not wanting the refund, right? You have to actually teach them something. So there's a lot that went into it, and none of us had done that. He and I were talking, and we talked about it for like a month, and finally he said, well, you know what? Screw it. Let's just send out an email with a link to a PayPal thing. And it was like this, super short email like, hey, we're having this summit, which, by the way, we hadn't planned yet, but we didn't say that, right? And it was like, we have a bunch of awesome speakers, which, by the way, we didn't, because we hadn't planned it. And here's a PayPal link and blah, blah, blah. And it's like $1,000 to go, right? Just completely made this out of thin air. So, of course, again, no confidence, didn't think anybody would buy it, send it out. And we had like 20 people buy, right? So here we have like 20 grand of people's money. And we were like, well, I guess now we have to have an event, right? Super long story, a little bit shorter. We had, ended up with like 120, 130 people go. And it was amazing. It was our first one. It was amazing. Everybody walked away. We had massive testimonials. And I think at that point was my aha moment. Like, I set out to do something. I didn't know how to do it, right? I didn't know how to throw an event. I didn't know, how to get all the speakers together. I didn't know how to get 120 people to buy these event tickets and get everybody down to Orlando and get everybody in the same, like, I didn't know how to do that. But I then realized, like, I had believed in my heart enough to know that I would figure it out. And my business partner did as well. And so that was like sort of our, we walked in the room the night before the event and we looked at all these empty chairs and we were like, wow, we did it. Like we were just these little marketers that, hadn't done any of this. And we put all this together and it was successful. So that was really I set out to do something and I did it. And only because I believed in myself, like, it worked. And we were successful in that, so.
That's an amazing story. I just love how you just said, we're just going to do this. I'm not sure how it's going to happen, but it'll happen,
It was so funny. Like, I tell this story every time, like, we go up. And, again, we have this event every year. And it's so funny because, like, he and I, neither of us are event people. We don't put on events. So it's just amuses people that, like, somehow we end up getting, I think now we're up to, like, almost 200 people. And it's, like, the third one in these rooms. And we're not, it's just not what we do, but we collected money for something before we had built it. It was really funny. It was just an amusing thing. So we're like, screw it. We'll just sell tickets and we'll send out an email and see if anybody buys. We had all these people buy and we're like, oh, well, I guess now we're doing it. So kind of just, putting yourself out there.
It's so true. Like, I remember when I first started doing this podcast, right? I was doing an interview for someone before this even launched, right? And I was just talking about how successful it was, kind of like speaking life into existence. And it's just amazing when it actually came out, like the podcast was already doing well. I had no clue how it was going to happen. I had no clue if people were going to even listen.
Yep.
Right? But I was just like, I'm just going to put it out there, right?
Just do it and see what happens.
And then like you, right? Screw it. I'm just going to do it because, nothing will ever be perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. That's so true. And especially with you, like, I had no idea that you did all this. I started researching you. You've accomplished quite a bit.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel honored. You searched for me.
Of course. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, like the results, right? But I just go back to that interview. I'm like, man, I can't believe, that happened even before it launched, right? Mm-hmm. So, because I was asking the person who interviewed me, I'm like, can you release it after I launch my podcast? Because it's going to launch in like 3-4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So he was cool. He was cool about that. And then when that happened, and then I saw the results and all the feedback, is like, wow, you can truly speak life into existence and not have to worry how it's going to happen, because it will happen. God or the universe or whoever you believe in is going to show you that way, right? It's all about asking the right questions. So,
and I actually read something earlier today. It was like, you can't steal second base with your foot still on first, right? So you have to be courageous enough to take the step and run, or else you're never going to go in the direction you want to go to.
That's so true, right? It's all about just being bold and taking the action and not caring what other people think. So,
yep. Totally.
So Jami, what's your life been now after that first event? I mean, obviously you've had more events planned. And
Yeah. So we have more events, and I actually got smart and hired someone to help me. put them on. The first one, we had obviously no budget, so we did it all ourselves. But now I actually have someone that helps me a little bit. And what else do I do? So, we have that, and it's funny because before the event, like I said, I was a private contractor, and I still am. However, before, I would have to sort of, I'm building a business, so I'm looking for all these clients. Like, I'd have to actually go out, and I call it hunting online, right? You hunt for clients, and you try to find these people these business owners that would need your services or need your expertise, and you have to reach out to them and get them to, like, offer you XYZ to do work for them, right? But now it's so funny, but now that you mentioned that, I just did a huge product launch for James Altucher, and he's actually really, really well known. If you don't know him, Google him. He's amazing. He has some best-selling books, Choose Yourself, and he's one of my mentors. But anyway, I just did this huge launch for him, and he was emailing. And by the way, he's on, like, CNBC, like, the news every other day or something, so he's, like, very, very popular. He actually emailed me, and he was like, I have people reaching out to me. He's saying this. He says, James is like, I have people reaching out to me asking how to get in touch with you, Jami, because you're the person everybody wants, because they want to be able, they want someone to do all these product launches for them, because we put through, like, almost 10 million in sales within a month. So it's funny, it's when you get confidence, and when you realize what you're capable of, then you're actually capable of even more. Right? And then you have people, before I have to go and search for, clients and whatnot, and now kind of have the pick, luckily, thankfully, very thankful for that, with as much as I want. So that's great. And then, of course, we have the event, which is doing phenomenal. And now, because of that, I have the luxury of, starting other little businesses and just working on things and innovating and finding out what else I like to do. And, I've been playing with, like, direct mail, for example, like selling stuff. A lot of people think that's old school, but, it just gives you freedom to make choices when you trust yourself, you're successful, and then you're able to take that step and just say, okay, well, now what can I do? Like, I trusted myself and I was successful in that. Now what do I want to try to do? And, you just take the step and do it. So that's what I've been doing lately. And I also compete a lot, too, like you said, in jiu-jitsu and whatnot, and I think I'm going to actually have a kickboxing match, maybe, in March, but I'm not going to tell anyone beforehand. I'll just tell everybody after, only if I win, of course, and then only then will I send anybody videos. But, yeah, so, just building and being a family mom,
life
training.
Is great.
Life is good. Life is good, yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Jami, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she's also inspired with your story and wants to maybe start something in her own life to be able to have the freedom that she wants, but she's still, struggling with some self-confidence issues. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Well, I mean, I really don't think confidence is something you can just all of a sudden have, right? You have to build it. So I would say for someone that has no self-confidence or very little, or they're trying to get more, number one, know that you're always going to have to work on that. Like, even now, I find I think I'm pretty confident, right? But when I'm met with a new challenge, I'm not always confident that I can do it. I just have to build myself back up and say, okay, I trust in my ability. But, one thing that I do a lot, and you'll probably see on Facebook all the time, is I'll enter these, like, random things, or I'll enter, like, a marathon, right? And the only purpose of that is to prove to myself that I set a goal, I did the work, I prepared, and I completed the goal, and I was successful. That's it. That's the only purpose of me, like, running marathons or doing a fitness competition, or, like, any of these things that I do. They're only little goals that I set, because when you reach a goal, it gives you confidence, right? Like, when you set out to do something, you set a date, you set a time, say, I'm going to do this. If it's a marathon, fine. So you're running 26.2 on March 12th. So then you figure out a way to do it, and you do it, and you set your heart to it. And after you complete that, it's like, you have the most confidence you've ever had. Yeah, I would just say, just set small goals. Like, again, just sticking to running, just to make it, super simple. If your goal is to eventually get to 26.2, like, say today I'm going to do 3. And then after you do 3, you're confident that you can do 4. After you do 4, you're confident you can do 5. But you actually have to put the effort in and reach that goal, no matter how small it is, because it'll give you the self-confidence to then take another step forward and continue down that line. So that's what I would do. I practice that all the time, and I'll preach it forever. It's just to set small goals, complete them, and it'll give you the confidence to then, keep moving up.
Thank you. And I love that advice, and it's so true, right? Because when you can just go a little bit more than the last time, it makes a huge difference, especially if you're doing something like 21 days in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just doing a mile more each day, like, it makes a huge difference. And people don't realize that these small steps is what makes people become, they say the overnight success, which obviously isn't, right? Because they've been just going at it for the longest time. So, thanks for sharing that. And
yep.
Jami, if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit about, what you do, about your events, or just, a little bit more about what you do or who you are, are there any like social media profiles or websites so we can link with?
Social media. So, you can find me on Facebook. I'll give Sheena the link, but it's, I think Jami.Stout1 is, or just search Jami is how you spell my first name, Stout. And because I'm involved in so many businesses and so many opportunities, that's pretty much the best things. Even if you went to my event site, it has nothing to do with, a lot of the things you guys are probably into. So really, if you just want to reach me, Facebook's fine. So yeah, and thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I know, you're very well known. You have a lot of listeners, a lot of people downloading your podcast. So thanks again for having me on.
No problem. It was a pleasure to have you on, So I knew you had to come here and share your story, because I know there's someone out there who can just be inspired and say, yep, today's the day I'm going to take on the world. Or, it's just helping women out there realize what's possible. So thank you so much, Jami. And to the listeners out there, make sure you head on to thetaoofselfconfidence.com. If you want to search for Jami's name, her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And like I said, thank you again, Jami. And to the listeners out there, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on the Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about today, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more. Start your inner journey to self-confidence today.